What is up, everybody, and welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. And AJ, you're in Death Valley following North Carolina's 31-20 loss to Clemson on that very field right there behind you. First thing I'm going to say, AJ, really nice backdrop. We were just talking about it a little bit off camera, but that might be one of your best of the season. We haven't done a lot of these over Zoom, so this does feel a little bit weird. We're usually in person, side by side.
This is only their third true road game, and I didn't have to hunt for a spot. This is really easy to find. So.
You did text me pretty quick. You were like, I got a spot, and I was like, all right, man, let's roll.
It just took a while to get Mac's video up, but
yeah, that's Wi-Fi for you.
I'm flying solo here in Death Valley.
That's Wi-Fi for you right there. But AJ, we'll go ahead and dive into this because I know you got plenty of work to do, and it is a little bit late over here right now. But I think we have to start with the first quarter. And I put out a tweet in the first quarter after, the two fumbles in particular, and just said how much it reminded me of really last week's game in different ways. Because last week, what Carolina did in the first quarter against Duke is they traded touchdowns for field goals. Today, they had these amazing opportunities to go up. I mean, arguably 21-0 it should have been. And Omarian Hampton has two fumbles, a guy coming to the game who hadn't had a fumble all season, something like 200-plus carries without one, has two massive fumbles today. And, again, we've talked a lot about missed opportunities at times this year, and I think this might have been the epitome of missed opportunities because when you come into a stadium like this, playing a Clemson team that I know is down this year but is trending in the right direction right now, having won 3 straight, you really just can't do that. And again, after that, Carolina really struggled offensively in the second half in particular. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I think that's where we need to start because they just left points on the field again, man. Can't do that.
No. You leave points on the field, you lose.
Yeah, especially against
points on the field. Yeah. You leave points on the field, you lose a turnover battle. You have 10 penalties for 98 yards. You have some questionable decisions that are made. You lose games. Man, they should have been up 21-0. And I think – I'll tell you what, it was open air press box here at Clemson, and we had a bunch of students right in front of us. Literally, I could have reached out, and you could smell the booze, right? You could smell those. Some of them were even lighting up cigarettes in the student section, and we got. I'm sure I probably smell a bit like that stuff. And my point is that Drake took them right down the field and they scored, and the vibe in the stadium was like, oh, okay, that's that guy. Mm-hmm. Or as Shelby Swanson of the Daily Tar Heel would say, he's him. So that's a shout out to her. See if she catches that one. And she'll laugh. And then the Omarian Run. And like the air was sucked out of the stadium. And it was a great atmosphere, great buildup. It was pageantry.
It looked like
steroids. And the air was sucked out of the stadium. The students like you could almost think, okay, they'll be leaving early to go to the bars or the parties or wherever. And then the play's overruled. And then then they had the fumble. And then then the other one that we thought he scored on, and the play was overruled. So Carolina was moving the ball. He had 188 yards in the first quarter against a team that was giving up 271 per game on the year. One of the best defenses in college football. Legitimate, like NFL dudes all over.
All over the place, yeah. Yeah.
NFL cats everywhere in that defense, everywhere. And Carolina looked awesome moving the ball, but I asked Drake, I said, college football can be weird and cruel. And sports can be weird and cruel. Mm-hmm. And the guy that hadn't fumbled all year long to finally fumble, but do it inside the 5-yard line both times. Whoever would have thought that would happen? You could have listed 1,000 things that might happen in this game and literally squeezed the lemon till 1,000 things came out. And Omarian fumbling twice in the first quarter inside the 5 would not have been one of those.
No.
But it happened. Mm-hmm. And it's some of the stuff that kind of went their way early this year, not going their way now. Now, they got some breaks last week and stuff. That's fine, but they shouldn't even have been in that situation. Mm-hmm. So they shouldn't even been in the situation last week. Today, they should have blown Duke out. Should have been up 28-7 at the half. Today, they should have been up 21-0. Guess what if they go up 21-0? The mirror's back a little bit, force Klubnik to throw, take away the run game, which I thought complemented what Klubnik was doing really well today, and make them one-dimensional, make them more predictable. It's not a great offense. It's also a team that, even though they won 2 in a row, you got to figure the confidence still isn't super, super great.
Yeah, it's got to be fragile,
So if you go up 21-0, in their place and their people are buzzing and not happy, buzzing in the wrong way, you got a huge advantage. But they failed to do that. And it's they. Omarian had the 2 fumbles, but it's they. It's a team situation. And then they didn't handle it well. They didn't recover. They never got over it. I think at one point it was 31-14. So Clemson outscored Carolina 31-7 over that span. Mm-hmm. The Tar Heels were bad defensively at times. They gave up 466 yards, the most yards Clemson has gotten this year in a game against a Power 5 team. Yeah, they should have been up 21-0. Yeah, we talked about it back in September during the open date that they went to Pittsburgh. They had some field goals. They didn't close well in that game. And then Syracuse, they had those field goals late. They didn't close with touchdowns. And we started talking about that. So, look, they've got to fix this. They're going to need to be able to get touchdowns more frequently, getting too many field goals, because they're going to need touchdowns. And we had no idea the defense would just fall apart in a sense. And the defense has averaged giving up just under 480 yards a game the last 5 games against Power 5 teams. And some of them are not exactly highly prolific Power 5 teams. So the offense's inability sometimes to get touchdowns has come back to hurt. An indicator is I think they're number 3 in total offense this week, but they're like number 30 in scoring.
Yeah.
Total offense is yardage. Yeah, so they didn't score. And then I'm segueing here, but really tough game for Drake. Clemson dialed up some amazing stuff. Drake got to see what a modified NFL defense looks like tonight, and with receivers that weren't getting open, it was not a very good performance. I know some people want us to dump on the team and dump on the staff, and we'll be critical later on in this 3 things about some decisions that were made. But this was a bad loss. When you leave points on the field, there's no stat for that. It's like when you look at the stats and you didn't see the game, you may not know just by looking at the stats, hey, they left points on the field, but they left touchdowns on the field. And you can't do that on the road here and have more turnovers than they do and expect to win a game.
Yeah, I want to stay on Drake real quick for the second thing we talk about, and I'll read through his stat line real quick. 16 for 36, 209 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Also ran for 67 yards on 10 attempts, 6.7 yards per carry. So uncharacteristically poor game from him. Again, you're talking about the first quarter there, and Carolina could have found itself in a lot better position had things gone differently, which we've talked about. So we're going to move on from that. But you look at this Clemson defense coming into this game, in terms of total defense, ranked as the best defense in the league. Drake May comes up against them. And I'm not just putting it on Drake. Carolina's offense as a whole, I thought they ran the ball obviously really well, 248 yards rushing on the ground. Omarian Hampton had just 178 of those. But
a lot of that was 3 runs.
That's a great point, too. It to me, and AJ, you were in the stadium, so correct me if I'm wrong on this, but from someone who was observing it on TV, I don't know if rattled's the right word to describe it, but Drake just didn't look like Drake, and they had a lot of zoom-ins of him during the game when he was out there. And again, I don't know if frustrated is the right word to throw out, but he just didn't look comfortable back there, and he didn't look like he was in sync with the game and what was going on. And Drake's a very cool, calm, and collected kid on the field. He doesn't really show a lot of emotion down there. He'll give you a little bit sometimes, but ultimately he's got a little Sam Howell in him in that respect, where they just don't show a lot of emotion on the field no matter what's going on. And I'm not saying Drake was showing emotion today. It was just when he was playing, when he was dropping back in the pocket, when he was doing things, when he was looking for receivers, he didn't look comfortable back there. And again, it was very uncharacteristic for him. And I don't know if it was the crowd that rattled him, if it was maybe the defense and the scheme they threw at him that rattled him. But again, this was the best defense Carolina has faced this season. It's the best defense in the league right now. A lot of NFL dudes, as you mentioned. And Drake really, really struggled. So, I mean, in some ways, and there's only 1 game left, it is concerning. But what do you make of it? Because, again,
I asked him what it was.
Yeah,
I asked him what it was. Mm-hmm. Well, the composite of his response to me and a few other questions about things tonight, the coverage was outstanding. They were in man all night.
Yes, that's a great point. Yeah, the Carolinas did not have a lot of space. Yeah,
they were heating them up. Put a lot of pressure, and they started picking it up more, which goes back to that timeout that Matt called on 2nd and 18 when they're in 15 with a minute 30 left in the first half. That the scales at the line of scrimmage had tipped in a series or so before that, and Clemson had finally, like in battle, imagine the Civil War, the two sides are going back, and you finally take that hill, right? You take the hill, you plant your flag there, and you're going downhill, and they're trying to go uphill. That's what had happened at the line of scrimmage in the series before. So Carolina started getting whipped, and Clemson owned the line of scrimmage from the run game a lot of time, but the pass game. Carolina wasn't going to win if Drake didn't have a big game. Wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And they gave him very narrow windows to throw the ball to. I asked him, was this the most challenging it's been for you in your career? Having a seam to get the ball through. And he doesn't like to say, oh, yeah, absolutely that was. No, there are a lot of other good, because he doesn't want to put down anybody, right? He's kind of political in that sense like Mac is. But it was. So sitting where I was, there were balls that he threw that I don't know. He wasn't throwing it away, because you don't throw the ball away over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
But it's almost as if he said, I've got to make the perfect throw. And it's so hard to make the perfect throw. You want to make the perfect throw, but the coverage is great. You don't want to get a pick. So because of that, all the balls were high. But he's had balls that have been high periodically in the last several games anyway, for the most part. But a lot were high. He had a few that were short. And then he was too long on a few, because he didn't have a great game. I think he missed on some. He had a couple early drops that didn't help, but they were putting pressure on him, like big time pressure on him. Carolina could have had 14 guys out there and they still would have had pressure on Drake.
Yeah.
And then the coverage was phenomenal. That was high level stuff.
Yeah.
So every quarterback in the country would have struggled tonight. But Drake really struggled. 16 for 36. There were times where that one pass he threw on 4th down where he just kind of moonshot it. It was almost like a Hail Mary.
Yeah, that was a weird pass. Yeah.
Some of the comments in the press box were like, what the heck was that?
I made the same comment over here watching it on TV.
It looked at times like, he was frustrated, but it looked at times like it had gotten to him. And he played like it had gotten to him. A couple times, I think they had a 2nd and 10, and he doesn't even really go through the check down. It's just Nesbitt's open wide right, and he just throws it to him to pick up a couple yards, because I think he started getting a little bit gun shy at times, because the rush was going to be there, and it was coming from all places. So it was his worst game as a starting quarterback. It was on the heels of last week when he was incredible. He wore a cape. He wore a cape last week. He didn't have a cape today. He needed about 10 capes to get out of this thing with a W. He got beaten up. I thought he showed a lot of guts. He had some really big runs in this game. He extended some drives, took a lot of hits. I don't know. I think they got him 4 times, but man, they could have gotten him 6, 7, 8 more times.
Easily.
So Carolina is not at Clemson's level.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
And they had a chance to show that they were, but those things happen when you're not. Period. And they weren't on Clemson's level on either side of the ball. I guess the one positive for Carolina is they had no special teams disasters in this game.
Yeah. I guess if you're going to look at it,
and I say that half jokingly.
Yeah. Oh, I know. There's a hint of sarcasm there, but I mean, at this point, it's hard to find a ton of positive from this one necessarily.
Let me finish one thing. I just sensed a lot of frustration on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
I thought that this was a tipping the scales kind of game, and we'll get to what this means here in a second. But remind me of that, because I saw a lot more frustration than I saw against UVA, and then I saw in Atlanta. A lot more. A lot.
Yeah. It was noticeable on TV too, on both sides of the ball for sure. Last thing, what this means, we always hit on what this means, so let's talk about it. NC State coming up next Saturday, 8 p.m. kickoff. A little unfortunate, a little sad about the 8 p.m. kickoff, but it's fine. I'll get over it. it's a weird situation, man, because I'll start with this. I start with always looking ahead because you're going into this state game where you have identical records, 8-3, state's ahead of you in the league. All of a sudden, this is a game for third place. And if you lose, state finishes with a better record with you, with a quarterback controversy and a team that wasn't very good long ago. It's a potentially just a really bad place for Carolina fans' perspective going into Raleigh next week with what could potentially happen, a place that Carolina's really struggled in the past couple of trips. But focusing on tonight and what this means, Carolina's played what, Clemson 3 times now under Mac 2.0?
Yeah.
And they've lost all 3.
Jacob, the buttons popped off tonight.
Yeah, and I want to preface those games because we were talking about it before we came on here. I was on the field last year in the ACC championship game. And I was in the press box with you 5 years ago when they played him in Mac's first year and I must beat him. But I remember talking to you I vividly remember the championship game last year because there was moments for the whole fourth quarter, really, where the Carolina photographers that I was with and that were sitting on the field were just chilling because the game had been over for 2.5 quarters. And coming into this game, you're looking at a Clemson program that, again, a Clemson team, I should say, that is not your traditional Clemson team. Again, they're trending in the right direction now, but this is not a vintage Clemson team. And I didn't even think offensively they looked that great tonight. They are
on defense.
Yeah, defensively they're fantastic.
They're CFP worthy on defense.
But offensively, I even tonight I was not very impressed with what I saw from them. And again, Carolina loses. So we kind of have to talk about that because I know you said the buttons popped off a little bit tonight, and you're looking at what happened tonight, what happened last week. And I mean, there's a lot of frustrations with Carolina fans right now. I will say that. Of course there are. And there's a lot of frustrations with this staff and with this program and where it's headed. And a lot of people saying, well, you look at this game, lost to Clemson again, haven't really closed the gap, never really felt like we were going to win this one. Where's the progress in the program? And I'm not saying I agree with that. But when you say the buttons popped off tonight, what exactly do you mean by that?
They've lost 3 out of 4 in league play. The one win was double overtime at home over Duke against the third-string true freshman quarterback, a Duke team that got beat at Virginia today.
Yeah, yeah.
A Duke team that hasn't won in more than a month.
Mm-hmm. Struggling.
So this team, people inside the program, noteworthy people inside the program said, why can't we be this year's TCU? They thought they had a chance to be outstanding. And they were 6-0. They were number 10 in the country. And they were legit. I told you guys 1,000 times. I told you and I told people that are listening. I was on a national radio show the next day and they asked me about CP. I ended up doing a drop about it a few days later. And now look at them.
It's not age well.
They could. Well, I mean, I can only report and talk about what's at the moment, right?
And in that moment, I do.
And we could project, but there wasn't anybody that was projecting this. Mm-hmm. Now they might be scrapping for the Mayo Bowl, perhaps, and they're in danger of closing this thing out, much like they closed last year out. Mm-hmm. So they've lost 3 out of 4 in ACC play. The one win was last week against Duke, a game they should have won big but didn't, and really had probably as many negatives as they did positives. A win's a win. I get it. You beat Thrilling, all that kind of. Never should have been that way. Should have been a rout. Should have taken care of business. The program that hasn't yet learned to put foot on throat has shown that repeatedly. But we thought things were different. We thought the defense was a lot better because it was having great second halves. It was adjusting and all that kind of stuff. Now they just can't. They don't adjust. Like I said, they've given up almost 480 yards per game in the last 5 ACC games.
Yeah, it's just been bad.
With all that talent, with all that experience, with all that brass, Max says this is the best staff he's ever assembled. There are so many years of experience over there. And they're 8-3, trending the wrong way as much as any decent team in college football right now. Their one-time Heisman candidate, his Heisman thing flamed out a long time ago, and he was 16 for 36 tonight.
Yeah, it was no. Yeah.
NFL teams are going to look at that and say, okay, well, a lot of talent on defense. They dialed some stuff up, and he struggled. I mean, he's still going to be probably number 1 pick, but the point is that they are not headed in the right direction in any conceivable way, with the exception of Omarian Hampton. And he had 2 fumbles tonight when he should have scored.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So Yeah, buttons popped off. This was a game that they should have been in this environment. They should have quieted this crowd in this place, in this, I would say, a hallowed grounds in college. There are others that are more so, but in the ACC, this is pretty hallowed. It's a special place. It is pageantry on steroids, like I said earlier. They had a chance to silence these people and have them direct their arrows back at Dabo. Mm-hmm. They had a chance to do that. And programs that are growing at the right rate, that have the experience and the talent this one does, but the coaching staff it has. You don't have the Virginia game. You don't have the Georgia Tech game. You don't have the Duke game the way it played out. And you don't have this one in succession in ACC play. And just brush to say, well, college football's tough to win games. Sometimes the better team is the other team. You just didn't do enough. No, they're losing in ways that are self-inflicting. They got whipped today in a lot of ways, but they allowed it to happen. Like I said, if they had gone up 21-0, who knows what Clemson's psyche would have been.
Oh, of course.
Last week they go up 27-0, they would have stomped Duke out of its misery. Game would have been over, right? Place would have been half empty by the middle of the fourth quarter. They're not doing that. So the stuff they had earlier that pulled away from Minnesota, that took care of South Carolina, that went up to Pittsburgh and responded to the kickoff return for a touchdown and took care of them. The team that beat Syracuse 40-7 back when Syracuse was feeling good about itself. The team that was dominant in the third quarter against Miami before Miami decided it was going to suck again. Like Carolina played a role in that, in sending Miami in that direction, right?
Yeah.
Like that team doesn't exist in many respects the last month. Mm-hmm. So buttons popping off. Yeah, all shirts dangling. They look unkempt right now. Mm-hmm. They look like they need a wardrobe change, and they look like they need a couple of energy drinks, and they need lots of spinach. Mm-hmm. Seriously, I'm not trying to be funny here. I just think that it's a bad look. They should be better than this. And there's not one person in that building. They may not like what's being said, but it's true, and they know it because they said that they were better than this. And they know, and so many of their goals are gone just about now.
Oh, yeah.
They still could, remember 9 isn't enough? I mean, I wrote 2 stories about 9 isn't enough. We did podcasts about 9 isn't enough. And now they're on the verge of
not winning 9.
Maybe not even getting to 9.
Yeah.
So they got to fix it, and they don't have much time because now they got to go into that drunken hornet's nest in Raleigh next week.
That is,
and state is trending this way big time, and Carolina's not. So they may not win that night. They may not win the 9th game. And when they say 9 is enough, it means you got to win 10, right? Mm-hmm. Got to beat State. Got to win a bowl game to win 10. I would say right now the trajectory suggests that won't happen. Maybe they'll turn things around this week. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see next Saturday, AJ. I mean, we'll be there. That's going to be a very, very interesting atmosphere to go into. And I know a lot of Carolina fans are not very confident about that one going into it because you're right. It's just 2 teams headed in very, very different directions. And, I mean, who knows what will happen next Saturday. But
this game being what it is, sometimes it doesn't really matter what direction you're going when you play.
No.
The old adage, but you can tear up the record books and throw them out. They don't really matter. I think that's true in a lot of ways. But this team has some fundamental flaws right now that are getting worse. And they've got 6 days to fix them. Otherwise, State will exploit many of the same things Clemson did today.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
State will be the second best defense they face.
I know.
They're not as good as Clemson, but they'll be very good, and they'll be just as physical.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll be watching tape from today's game and seeing exactly what Clemson did and trying to do it, next week against North Carolina.
There's no secret sauce that Dabo came up with today.
No.
How you beat North Carolina.
No.
And State knows what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be such an interesting matchup next Saturday. I don't know if Carolina fans are looking forward to it. I'm assuming they're probably not now with where this team is and in terms of trending, but it's always a fun.
As journalists, we are, because I look forward to the next chapter and see what it's like. I'm very curious to see how they'll come out. I'm curious to see what Monday is going to be like with Mac, because he's going to look at the film and talk to us. And there's some things, the timeout late in the first half, they go in for 2 points, things like that. Kind of not sure about his answer when I asked him about going for 2 points in that situation. So maybe Monday we'll have a chance to flesh those things out a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll see. So make sure you guys keep it locked to CharlieIllustrated.com for all your coverage from obviously tonight's game, but next week, Raleigh, all that jazz. Still plenty of football left this season. A couple games left for the Tar Heels. Also should note, I know people probably know by now, Carolina officially eliminated from ACC championship game play even before the game started with Louisville beating Miami, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway with Carolina losing tonight because they would have had to win out to have any sort of 8% chance or whatever it was to make the game in the first place. But I need to throw that in real quick as well. So that goal and mission of Carolina not attainable anymore. And again, we'll see if they can finish with 9 or more wins, but it's a tough task and a tall task based on how they played over the last month and tonight specifically. So Carolina losing 31-20 on that field right behind AJ. AJ, I'm gonna let you run. I know you got plenty of work to do. It's only 9:42 right now. So, I mean, at least it's not one.
Yeah, but they close the press box here kind of early. So I've got to get as much done as I can before I head to the hotel, which is like an hour and a half away.
Oh man, you got plenty of stuff to do. Well, I'll let you run.
Yeah, because after the basketball game, I drove to Gastonia and I just kept the same hotel. So.
I don't know if my Wi-Fi just dropped out for a second. Apologies if that happened on your end, but I've been Jacob Turner.
Like
yeah, he's been Andrew Jones. Good thing we're wrapping this one up in the first place. Yep. Appreciate y'all watching as always, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.